Welcome to April's edition of Wrexham Property TV. Let's have a look at what we have in store. Well, good news. There is no sign of a crash. In fact, business seems to be picking up on the for sale properties, and more properties are coming in on instruction. What I'm seeing on average is there's about a 6% price correction. That is a correction, that is not a crash. However, there is a slightly more worrying trend in that I am seeing properties with some agents coming onto the market, certainly basing the marketing price on what was possible to get last year. My fear is not only will those vendors find their houses sticking on the market, but also having enough houses sticking on the market because it's been priced at an unrealistic price has other problems with it as well, in that it starts to clog up the market. Make sure that the comparisons, the price comparisons and the property comparisons that you're shown may be last summer, but they're not going to be replicated marketed price. There have been 32% less sales transactions than there were this time last year. Of that 32% reduction, the actual number in Wrexham over the last 3 months, 1,572 houses or residential properties sold. The average price now of a property in Wrexham is £191,000, and the average in Wales is £197,000. And for those of you who want reassurance that property is still a worthwhile investment, over the last 5 years, property prices on average in Wrexham, in the county of Wrexham, have gone up by 27%. Now, if your money in your bank account had gone up by 27% over the last 5 years, then I'm sure you would be delighted. But as we all know, the interest rate increases there on any savings has been modest. Demand for rental property from prospective tenants, it's outstripping supply, and now by some considerable margin. You're looking now at an average rent across all agents in Wrexham of £689 per month, an increase of 8% on the last 12 months alone. If you just look at our own office, our average now is running between £725 and £730 per calendar month. Numbers that landlords wouldn't have even thought possible 2 or 3 years ago. So, with so much going on in the property market, we thought it would be a great idea to ask Caris Bailey to come along and give us some advice, best advice, on mortgages in particular in this current market.
Okay, so today we'll talk a little bit about landlords. There's been a lot of press recently about interest rate rises. A lot of people are panicking as their mortgage rates are coming off their deal with their existing buy-to-let providers. Getting a buy-to-let mortgage is a little bit more difficult than it was, mainly because the ICR, which is the stress rate which sits in the background, is a little higher. So we're finding it more difficult to move mortgages from one provider to another. But I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk to you about the fact that existing providers do have to offer you alternative deals once you come to the end of it. Now, brokers can help you with this as well. They will also search the market to see if you can get a mortgage and change it to an alternative provider. But it is always worth checking with your provider what offers they can offer you for the next 2, 3, 5 years. Even if you are looking in the longer term, go for a 2-year fixed rate or 2-year deal. And if the economy does settle, then you could look to potentially move lender. Something else that has changed since before COVID is that existing providers do want to retain their customer base. So historically, people have always thought that once you've come to the end of your deal, you will automatically be offered a far higher interest rate than a new customer. That has changed in the last 3 years, with providers really looking to retain their customer base. So you might actually find that the existing provider can give you a better deal than to move elsewhere. And it's far quicker and easier for you to do so, and mortgage brokers can help you with that. Something else that's of interest, and certainly in the press, is about sustainable lending and EPCs and reducing our carbon footprint. So lenders are really into the sustainable lending currently. And as a landlord, again, it's something that you need to consider. Your EPC expectations for current guidelines for 2028 is to be reduced down to a C. Now, people with large portfolios are thinking that's going to cost a lot of money to correct or to improve all of the properties. Something to bear in mind is if you do have properties that are unencumbered, so that means no mortgage on them, you can raise money against one of those properties to correct all of your other properties so that you're fit and ready for when the regulation does change. Even if it doesn't change in 2028, it will certainly change in the future because sustainable lending is the way forward. If you do improve your EPC rating, whether it be on your buy-to-let properties or on your residential properties that you live in, both of which, if you reduce the EPC to A or B, certainly, you will get a reduced interest rate and you will get benefits when you move the mortgage from lender to lender. So it's really about sustainable lending and responsible lending. As a general rule, residential rates are looking to come down. You are looking at sort of between low 4s up to mid 4s interest rate wise for 75% loan to value. If we're going up to the 90% loan to values, we're still low 5s, late 4s. So it is becoming far more affordable. With regard to buy-to-let rates, they are coming down a little bit, but not as much as the residential rates. Lenders are going into a price war, so you are seeing short, sharp drops in rates. So you will see a lender come into the market for 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks with a particularly headline rate. Once their service levels are full, they will then take that rate back off again, but another lender will pick up the mantle at that point. It is always worth looking, especially if you're on a residential mortgage, to look to move lender. Rates are coming down, and just don't be worried. Don't worry about what the press is saying with relation to interest rates. I have a lot of my clients that are coming to me terrified that they're not going to be able to afford the mortgage that they've got on their house. Speak to your broker before you start panicking and listening to the general press.
Now, over the last two and a half years, a lot of landlords have sold their rental properties. I think there were 2 factors that contributed to that decision. One was the fact that the sales market was incredibly buoyant. The other one was the impending new Welsh legislation on rental properties that has come into effect from the 1st of December. I can understand the thinking, but I still maintain that it's the wrong decision. I'll completely forgive all of you for thinking, well, you would say that anyway, Vaughan, because you're an estate and letting agent and it's in your interests for landlords to keep property. Yes, it is, undoubtedly, and I don't deny that. But equally, what I'm saying to you, I also believe to be true. It's the wrong call. If you sell a rental property, let's say after selling it, the net worth you get out of the sale is 100,000. Unless you have a specific home for that money, there is no good going to come out of it, significant good coming out of it in terms of financial benefit, because you're going to put it in a bank or a building society, unless you're going to take a risk on the stock exchange. Good luck with that. But if you're going to put it in a building society or a bank, you're going to attract somewhere in the region of 2.5%. So at the end of the 12 months, you will receive £2,500 of income. The other problem we have currently is 10.4% inflation. That will erode that 100,000. And even though at the end of 12 months, it still will read 100,000, the buying power of what you had previously will have diminished to approximately around £90,000. That is not a position you want to find yourself in. And currently in Wrexham, with rental prices having increased just under a third, giving, well, record yields for landlords simply because of a shortage of rental property driving rental values higher. This is a time where you can enjoy the benefits of that to you simply because people got out of rentals too early. There is evidence to suggest there's landlords coming back in, but certainly it would be a move, in my view, that would not be to your financial benefit. Over the next few years, rental values will undoubtedly increase again, and it remains, over the medium term, a fabulous investment for someone to make. Inflation has always been running at below what incremental housing values have actually accrued at. So over the medium term, and by medium term I mean 10, 12, 15 years, it's always proven to be a fabulous place to put your money and to make sure that you are getting the most out of your investment. On the 1st of December, all assured short-haul tenancy contracts changed immediately to occupational contracts. What we did as an agency was to give the option to landlords and tenants whether they wanted to convert immediately to occupational contracts. 70% of our properties and tenants did so after the 1st of December. Those tenants of yours should have received an occupational contract. If they didn't, I'm afraid to say that those tenancies now would be considered illegal. By all means, contact me directly if that is the situation. Had any new tenancies from the 1st of December, you've got an occupational contract, you would have then another 14 days to sort out a written statement and an RHW2. A written statement is an explanation of how the new contract, the occupational contract, differs from the old contract of the assured short-haul tenancy, and also it goes on to talk about the new terminology. The RHW2 must be served also simultaneously, and that's a document that will have your name, address, or correspondence address if that is different. If you've done nothing at all since the 1st of December, you have until the 31st of May to issue a written statement. If you have difficulty with that, we do offer the service whereby we can do that for you. We've been asked to do that for a local solicitor practice where they've got clients who are going there asking for this new written statement and this new contract, and we'll be doing their work for them there. But obviously also if people approach us directly, we will also be able to do that work for you. If you do issue, even today or tomorrow after you've seen this video, a occupational contract to your tenant, I would also say you need to issue a written statement simultaneously, because that would be best practice. That written statement would cover the period from the 1st of December to the present day. The occupational contract obviously would cover going forward your relationship with your tenant. Again, written statements, let me re-emphasize, they need to include the variations that have been verbally agreed. Such examples would be they didn't have a pet when they first moved in, but you've agreed to a pet. There might be a single person moving in initially, but they've got a new partner and they've moved in. That would be a variation. All that would need to be detailed on a written statement, along with a list of the variation in terms, because the terms in the new occupational contract will be completely different to the ones on the old AST. Two key changes. The increases in rent required will be 2 months. And if you're looking for notice to vacate, from the 31st of May, it's going to be 6 months. What I would say to you is doing nothing is not an option. Please get in touch if we can be of any use, any worthwhile advice, and we can actually draft out the new contract and also the written statement on your behalf. Well, that's it for April's edition. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll hope to see you again in May.